Welcome back. You've worked hard during a very tough year and you'd like to get away for the holidays maybe. So do you have to tell your boss during this pandemic? The pandemic is raising a lot of tricky workplace issues. Quentin Brogdon is an attorney well versed in employment law and he joins us here in Dallas. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
All right, so you're dealing with maybe some workplace issues. I get it, right? We have procedures here when it comes to taking a vacation or maybe doing some holiday travel. What's your advice? Where do we start?
Well, you start with the idea that under OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, employers have a duty to provide a safe workplace for their employees. The trick is how they do that without running afoul of the legal requirements. It really depends on the type of job. That's the first step in the analysis. If you're talking about a nurse or someone who works in a nursing home in a high-risk occupation, then the employer is going to have a lot more leeway to perhaps require a vaccination, inquire about vacation plans, check social media and see if somebody's out in a big group without a mask on. If you're talking about a worker, on the other hand, who sits behind a desk all day, who's not exposed to the public, the employer in the balancing test is going to have less leeway. But there's no mistake, employees are having to give up a lot more of their rights today than they ever have before in the face of this 100-year pandemic, COVID.
So Quentin, what are bosses really entitled to know about our holiday plans? Or like you said, does it matter on their job description?
Well, you start with the job description. What kind of employee are you talking about? And really what you want to do as an employer, and I am one at a law firm, is try to work by agreement with your employees instead of cramming things down their throat and mandating, because people tend to rebel, they tend to act out if they're being forced to do things, whether that's taking the vaccine or report back on their vacation. So you try to the extent possible as an employer to do things by agreement, to get buy-in from your employees. That's always the best route. If you have to step before a judge, it's a balancing test. It's public health and safety versus the rights you're infringing on of your employees. And different judges may see that balancing test in different ways.
Hey, Quentin, there's some people asking, whether or not your job can make you sign an agreement of some sort.
Probably the answer is yes. Again, it depends on the job. Any of these things are subject to legal challenge, and depending upon the judge you get before, there's a subjective element in all this when you're engaging in a balancing test, when you're engaging in a test where you're looking at public health and safety on the one hand versus the rights of employees being given up on the other. But the answer is probably yes. In most situations, your boss, your employer can ask you, probably legally, about vacation plans and things of that nature, where you've traveled, and make you perhaps even sign a pledge, pledging that you'll abide by the CDC, Centers for Disease Control guidelines, for example.
Right.
Many of your listeners won't want to hear that, but that's the reality.
No, you're right. So let's say you decide not to disclose your plans, then you contract the virus affecting your ability to work. Can your boss take some legal action against you?
Well, you get into a whole series of issues involving the ADA, the American with Disabilities Act. Once you're sick or disabled on your job, there's a whole series of legal protections that potentially come into place for you. So it's difficult, not impossible, but it's difficult to fire an employee once they've been stricken down. You need to try and accommodate the employee if you can. If you're the employer, there's no simple answer to that, one size fits all, but it's not a good idea just because someone contracts COVID, if you're the employer, to simply haul off and fire that employee. That's generally a bad idea.
Right, Quentin, thank you so much for joining us here this midday. A lot of great information there. Listen, I know we all want to have fun, but at this point, we got to do our part to stay safe and flatten the curve. Things are not good right now.
Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.